Okay, so I'm gonna wait for people to get on, and the reason I'm doing this video, this live about dogs and content creators, my journey of rescuing my first dog ever, was Misha. A picture of her, my beautiful Irish Wolfhound mix. She was the best dog I've ever had in my entire life. She was a senior dog, considered a senior dog, being 7 years old when I got her, and there's some fuckery going on in rescue systems and transportation, and content creators are the worst. The content creators I follow because they actually do the following. They share the ID of the dog. They share the shelter. They share the email. They share the deadline. They share the phone numbers. They share the state, city the dog is in. They sometimes share videos and notes of the dog or cat so that you understand what you could be dealing with, right? Whether or not you want to commit. Now I'm going to tell you the scammers, because a lot of these content creators are afraid to get shadow banned by a TikTok because they get flagged by asshole fucking content creators who have 100,000 followers, who get a check in the mail from TikTok for all the sad fucking videos, and there's no name of the dog, there's no ID, there's no fucking city, there's no phone number, there's no email. All they're doing is posting the videos of these dogs. They go into these shelters and they do videos of these dogs, and they have no intention of saving the dog. All they are wanting for, some of them have the balls to actually put their Venmo and Cash App for donations. Donations for what? What am I donating you money for? Right now, personally, I'm doing a GoFundMe to get a dog I'm actually getting out of California. Come to know that the deeper I go into rescues, the more nefarious and dark that world is. It is insane. I found an amazing woman who I'm actually going to try to interview on one of my lives on TikTok, so you get educated as to what. Do not fucking give these. If you see a dog with no ID, no name, no phone number to the shelter that dog is situated in, no way to contact and save that dog. Here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing people begging the content creator to give, please, I want that dog. I'll save that dog. Please give me the name, and will not respond. Will not respond at all to that. When I got Misha, this is the beautiful dog you're seeing right here in the picture. I was looking for an Irish Wolfhound mix. I found her in Oregon. The transport was free. I kid you not. It was a kismet. Like, she was supposed to be my dog. Everything was free. I was very, very lucky. And I did fill out an application, and the rescue was an amazing woman who I still have a contact. In fact, when I called her a year after I had, rescued Misha, which I kept her name. Her name was Misha for 7 years. And I went ahead and contacted her and said, look, I need her vet information just for background. And I got the vet information, and there was the email on the email of the owner, the original owner, which wasn't, it turns out it wasn't the original owner. And I kept toying, but I had, my mom was dying, then my beloved was dying. It was like, but when Misha died, I contacted the owner and sent him pictures, and he almost cried, saying, thank you so much for letting me know she had a good life. And the reason why he actually turned her into a rescue was because he couldn't, she was a free dog. She roamed the farmland of Oregon. And one of the fucked up owners said, if she keeps coming on my land, visiting my cows, I will shoot her on sight. Okay. So at that point, he realized I couldn't put her on a chain. She was really an outdoor dog in his mind. And she was turned into a rescue. And in that rescue, she was actually turned back in 3 times by different families who didn't think she was exciting enough. But she was the perfect dog for me. She has always been my perfect dog. Why am I saying all this? Because in some exciting enough. But she was the perfect dog for me. She has always been my perfect dog. Why am I saying all this? Because in some cases, anyway, and why am I saying this? Because when I got Anaga Mary, which is the Great Pyrenees, the White Pyrenees, you'll see videos of her here and there. She was coming out of a high kill shelter in Dallas, Texas, right? And I thought that was bad. But at least, I had a wonderful contact. His name is Woods. People actually know him. He's a very loving man. He doesn't want these dogs to die. He's a really great guy. And these people do give a shit about these dogs. But the irresponsibility of not neutering and just breeding and breeding. Like yesterday, I just saw a guy with like in red marker all over his car. I'm not joking when I say that. Selling pit bulls out of his fucking car. When we know that the highest euthanation rate of animals, of breeds, are pit bulls. They're number one on the youth list. They are overbred. And they are not bred by people who understand the psychology. And let's be honest, there's dog fights involved in that whole thing too, dog rings. And so to get these dogs in safer places, right, where there is some kind of, what's the word I want to say? Some kind of integrity and compassion for these dogs. We all as individuals need to fucking pay the fuck attention. So when you see a content creator doing a video, oh my God, this dog, he's suffering, it's going to be euthanized. But there's no information about how to get that dog out of that situation. Yeah, fucking block him. Report them for a scam. Especially if you see them asking for donations for, I don't even know why. Why would you donate to someone who's literally doing content and has no information? Mammoets is an incredible dog creator volunteer. She gets no money whatsoever, and she'll post dogs. It's like it's almost like she's doing charity work full time, but she has the ID, the phone number, all the information, even the dog notes. And if she's lucky, she gets videos. Sometimes they're just still shots. But she is seriously looking to fucking save these dogs. She gives a shit. Meanwhile, she only has 30,000 followers. Meanwhile, you've got these 100,000 to 200, and you guys are, and if it's not you, then it's others. And I need you to take the time to pay attention to this because it fucking matters. Why? Prabhupada, who actually brought Krishna into the Western world, said, and this is probably the most incredible thing I've ever said, he said, when terrorism on animals end, terrorism on people will end. It matters. The highest euthanasia rate in the country is in California, Granola State, Kumbaya State. Well, apparently not. And the reason why some of these people aren't looking to interview with me on this is because they're afraid of being shadow banned. They're afraid of being bullied. Now, Chris, who just lost his life saving 300 cats, right? He was able to save, I think, 100 or 150 cats going back and forth in his house to get these cats out. He had an incredible setup. His setup of what he had created with his nonprofit organization, which he started because he had lost his son to a motorcycle accident. And these vet techs, Ashley being one of the main names, was harassing him. And now it's really suspect how he passed away, how his house exploded. It's really sus. And it makes no sense whatsoever. But he kept going back in again and again to save those cats. He gave a shit. And if you look at his videos, he's the real thing. But in the dark corners of rescue, in these dark corners of shelters, there's a particular shelter out of Arkansas. I know for a fact, I'm a psychic for Christ's sake. I know for a fact she's selling some of these dogs to dog fighting rings. I know for a fact because there you have to keep a list of euthanasia going on. You have to keep a list of the dog, the ID, and when a dog or cat was euthanized, and there are no such lists. The dogs are there one day. This is somebody who's actually a volunteer who told me this out of Arkansas. The dog's there one day, and the next they're not, and there's no records of it being euthanized. Do you understand what I mean? So a lot of them are getting money under the table to do various nefarious things. And that's not all shelters. Some, like I just mentioned, the shelter in Dallas, Harris County, that people complain about, I have connected with them. Are they overwhelmed? Yes. But they answer their fucking phone calls. I saved a dog because I was trying to save this dog from being euthanized. It was a wolfhound, not a wolfhound, because you never see wolf. Ironically, you very rarely ever see Irish wolfhounds in shelters. Ever. I'm not go look for an Irish wolfhound and good luck, because for one reason or another, Irish wolfhound breeders are actually fucking responsible. They breed once or twice, once every 1 to 2 years. Okay, they have waiting lists that go on for 3 fucking years. They do not, and these dogs do not end up in shelters. I'll tell you that. And if it does, it's an anomaly. It's like finding a gold ring in a haystack. Good luck. I've been trying because I definitely want to adopt at some point, but it doesn't look like that's in the cards. Thank fucking God, because it shows me that there are really good breeders out there who handle Irish Wolfhounds. They don't fuck around. They don't sell to assholes. But the dogs that are the highest on the youth list are pit bulls first. Second is German shepherds. And then after that, believe it or not, what's overbred is Great Pyrenees. Overbred. They're all overbred dogs. It's insane. And the irresponsibility of owners, you know, they think this is fun to see what they can get with a Chihuahua and a Poodle, for example, is insane. It's irresponsible. It's bullshit. We have way too many fucking dogs. And because some of them are trembling in their cages for days, because they can smell death. Hello? I mean, is that such a shock that they're frightened? They can smell, they can hear, they sense, they know, they feel. They feel, they think, they dream, they grieve. We know, they cry. So why is it? And they have higher intuitions than we do, obviously. So the brutality going on with these dogs, and cats, by the way, is, I don't even understand how we're accepting this shit. In upstate New York, which is very famous for the way they treat their animals in a good way, very good. Shelters here have maybe 20 dogs. I'm not joking, like 20. Okay? Whereas in California, one shelter will have 145 dogs. One in California. One shelter. And so quite often you'll hear of pilots, you know, who, I'm not kidding, like literally fly into California to get dogs, or Texas or the South. Usually it's Texas and California. One team out of Canada flew in, I'm not joking when I say flew in, and picked up 20 dogs to fly them back to Canada to get them adopted. Okay? We are a shameful, that part of the world from the Midwest into the South, down into into California, shameful what we're doing with animals. And on a spiritual level, this matters because the reverberation of that kind of insufferable attitude towards animals, like, oh yeah, we got 48 hours, let's euthanize 200. I'm not joking, that's what's happening. And there are veterinarians, there are two kinds of veterinarians who are doing this, or vet techs, whatever you want to call them, who do this. One kind is they won't survive 6 years because they will get into massive depression. It's mentally hard to take a perfectly beautiful, sweet, loving dog, all they want is to love, and then to put them down. A healthy puppy, a healthy 2-year-old, 3-year-old dog, a loving senior, cat, dog, and it hurts them. And then there's the second kind, the psychopaths who enjoy it. I'm just going to say it straight out. So we need to get real, you need to look at who's doing what. And I'm not kidding. Report those accounts. That's right. Report them, because the good guys, the guys that really are helping people find the dogs to adopt, the ones that give you the ID and the phone numbers and the location of the animal and out-of-state adoption information, all of that, and actually coordinates for fucking free, to actually get the dog out of the shelter through a good, honest transport company or individuals to your home, are and they're not being treated right. They are being attacked by the people who are actually hustlers, grifters, and who are asking for money. They are being reported. Their accounts are being banned for a week. And they're afraid to say anything. So I'll say something. So when you see me following something, you can bet your ass they're fucking good. And if you don't see me following a particular dog rescue coordinator that is doing it for free, for fucking free, trust me, they're good. They're good. because you should see how many people I follow. I hate spiritualists who think they're so cool that they're too above following people. I can learn from everyone, and I follow all kinds of people all over the world doing, talking, and sharing all kinds of different things. From this woman who I connected with in Australia who uses horses as horse therapy. These horses will come to people lying on a table, and these horses will just put their muzzle faces up against people, and people start erupting in tears because horses can feel your heartbeat, and horses can feel what you need, and horses can actually heal you. Okay? I remember an incredible documentary on a kid on massive autistic spectrum, and the documentary was called Horse Boy, where they took their kid to Mongolia. Okay, he was always pooping in his diapers, and because he was connecting with horses in such a visceral, authentic way, that he started actually pooping correctly. It was like, hooray! Oh my God! The nervous system of horses connected to the nervous system of humans is not documented to the person. Please don't ask me to join my live. Don't be rude. Okay, I don't know you, so if I know you, you'll be invited as a guest. I get so annoyed. So what I'm going to say to you is that though I sound like a bitch, okay, to a lot of people, I am intensely passionate about righting the wrongs of injustice. And why this matters to us personally is because if you're on this live right now, or if you listen to this later on in the week on my YouTube channel when I upload this shit, this reverberation of fear, of euthanizing perfectly great souls, of putting them in garbage bags because that's what they end up, or selling them to places to get them tested on, like Revlon and Lancome and those companies that do that shit. And other companies, you can look it up. Who tests on animals? I mean, what the fuck are we still doing? But is a real darkness in the shadows of transportation, rescue, and shelters. I kid you not. Okay. And we need to be aware as spiritualists, because animals are just as important to us as a human being facing the death, penalty. Okay? It's important to the collective development of us. So I had a client again say, "Oh, this is so intense that we're seeing this we're seeing this how the world is and this and that." And I said to her, "No, this kind of brutality has always been, except now we have cell phones to record the brutality, the unfairness, the injustice, the capability of certain human beings to do shit that you can't even wrap. Like you're asking, why would someone do that? Why would you ask?" There was an incredible show called Manhunter. It was from the 1990s, directed by Michael Mann. And it was about a serial killer. And this guy, this detective, this high-level special force, whatever, had to psychologically become that man to catch him. That he had to put himself in that zone. Do you understand? So you don't want to be in the mind of a Hannibal Lecter. You don't want to be in the mind of someone who is able to do that. We don't ask why, how can they do that? We ask, how can we fucking make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else and when I say anyone else, I include animals. We have too many videos showing the incredible dynamics of their massive unconditional love and empathy, and the fact that we're not protecting these animals from being euthanized. They want to live just as you. That's why they're shaking in their fucking cages. In fact, did you know that they euthanize dogs more likely if they're scared? Cats or dogs. If the animal presents as scared, they get rid of it. All kinds of reasons why. Puppies, there was a Pyrenees puppies that was put down recently. 3 days ago, there was 4 gorgeous long-haired German Shepherd puppies, 2 months old, that were put down. Stop fucking allowing your neighbors. You want to become a Karen? Be a Karen for the right reasons. Let's call you Jessie. Jessie is a bitch that will not allow people to get away with fucking breeding and animals with no respect. The problem is we don't have respect, and we do not protect them from being bred and being allowed to just oops, she got pregnant. The problem also with fixing our animals is that for my little 10-pound cat, right, my little A cat to fix him is $450. So can you imagine for a 90-pound dog how much that would cost? It's not. So we need to demand vouchers for people who are poor, who can't. It's not that they don't want to fix their dogs. Some of them are idiots and they don't want to fix their dogs, but some of them actually can't afford it. And thus we should have vouchers, free vouchers, to get the dogs and cats fixed so that no oops happens again. Because as you know, dogs and cats are being dumped in unsafe places. Remote places where I've seen hikers literally hiking, minding their own business in the middle of fucking nowhere, finding a puppy going, how the fuck does this, or kittens, how the fuck does a puppy end up in the mountains? We're talking about impossible. That animal was driven up there. I remember one of my cats, Lily, she was named Lilith. I remember talking to my twin at night. It was like 10 o'clock at night, and we were chatting. We're in the middle of fucking nowhere. Okay, we lived up in the mountains of upstate New York, nowhere. And suddenly we heard the cry of a cat. She was a kitten. She'd been dumped right there. And she was lucky she found us instead of some psychopath that would have harmed the cat for fun, just for fun, because they're out there. I mean, look at how people are trapping wolves and bobcats, and we have psychopaths, okay? We have a lot more psychopaths than I think you want to believe. And that's not to create a dooms world or doomsday in your head today. It's to say, be aware that you're good and you're surrounded by beautiful people with beautiful hearts. But that's not the reality of the planet. This is why this planet is considered in the Vedas 50% heaven, 50% hell. And hell is what we're trying to get this planet 100% heaven. Why? Well, because we deserve it. We deserve it. And we deserve to go into 5D. But 5D, when injustices to the most vulnerable of our population, be it children, be it the elderly, be it people with disabilities, be it animals, is not to be accepted anymore. That's where we're coming to. Because if you remember, and you probably don't, and I don't blame you because I wasn't born during the 50s either, my friend. When people say, well, I wasn't born there, that doesn't mean you should be ignorant. Because I wasn't born in the 1920s, but I know about the 1920s. I wasn't born 2,000 years ago, though technically I was as a reincarnated soul, but I don't remember that. But I know what they were doing 2,000 years ago through history. So people saying that is a weak mind. You're a weak, fucking lazy mind. Do not say that to me. Do not say that. Oh, well, it's beyond my time. I wasn't born. No, fuck that. But anyway, in the 1950s, 40s, 20s, if a person was born with a disability, okay, of any, fuck that. But anyway, in the 1950s, 40s, 20s, if a person was born with a disability, okay, of any kind, institution, and these institutions were nefarious for some evil deeds, okay? Perfectly good women were put in the institution. One of the most famous ones was Frances Farmer, an actress who was considered, she had very wild, rebellious ideas, and she was lobotomized, forcefully lobotomized, and she was essayed a lot because she was a beautiful woman. And there's a movie about her called literally Frances Farmer, if you want to check it out. So my point is the kind of shit we did to the most vulnerable and to the most rebellious was tragic. And so what we are moving as a society is we are aware. It's not that this never happened before. It's not that, the good old days of the 1940s, let's go back to that. No, we don't want to go back to that. We're really in a good place because we get to see the horrific shit front and center because we all have fucking videos on our cameras. We all have the ability to record. And because we have the ability to record, we are now flagging bullshit and the whole world's exploding with, oh my God. And that's a good thing. The world is not crueler than it's ever been. The world now is in front and center in our faces, and we're able now to do something about it. To say, I reject this bullshit. I don't want this in my life. It's not okay for us to act like that with people who are the most vulnerable in our communities. And this is why many of us are hungry for community to end this, because up until now, it was normal. This country is savage. I'm just going to say, fuck. It's savage. Why? Because we have normalized throwing kids at the age of 18 to the streets. We have normalized not multi-generational families living in one home, one mansion, one big fucking, 10-bedroom house. We have normalized it. Instead of realizing that there are people in the Chinese community, Japanese community, Hispanic community, should I go on, Arabic, Hindu community, that do it. And we've tried to shame these people. Oh, you're still living with your mom? No. He's got his own apartment, and they're multimillionaires because they live together as a family, my friends, and they're fucking winning at the American game. Meanwhile, we are all, especially all of us, are paying various rents. 5 members of a family all have 5 different rents instead of having the brains to take that 5 income, move it into one, and create community. Create community, land, which is power. David Bowie once said, I'll never forget this, because he owned land all over the world. He said, you can never have too much real estate. Okay? I've tried my whole life to own real estate, and I've successfully done it. But I'm going to tell you something. All of this is interconnected. All of this. So you want to support the people who are supporting the concept of community. Yes, follow, like, and repost their videos so that they do get a check from fucking TikTok. But do not post things of people showing videos of, situations that are, heartbreaking and give them attention. Do not give attention to people who want attention for the wrong reasons. I guess that's what I'm saying. And all of this, even though I'm going here left and right, Geminis and my planets, I want to say that the capacity for generosity and empathy and realizing that we've been hustled into believing and shaming families who want to be together. We shouldn't. We should look at ourselves and go, why is it that my mother doesn't live with me? Why is it that my uncle Jerry doesn't live with me? Why is it that we're not pulling together all of our resources? There are communities in Northern California right now that will buy land together. And I spoke about it many, many times, making $9,000 a year, which definitely flags it. They're getting Social Security, right? And they've created amazing, amazing communities, fresh fruits and vegetables being grown on their land, eggs, meat, chicken, whatever. They're doing whatever they need to do, and they're pooling their resources. Why aren't we doing this as families? Why aren't we supporting the right people and yet letting people manipulate our heartstrings for the wrong reasons? Be discerning. Think, look at what you're seeing. You're looking at the image that's pulling your heartstring and giving money by your attention, by your likes, by your reshares on someone who doesn't deserve it. Be discerning. What are they saying? How are they helping? Are they helping? Discernment is big. I follow over 9,000 people around the world. Again, a red flag to me when I see a content creator who thinks they're too fucking good to follow people. That includes a celebrity. They only follow 5 people. Who the fuck are you to not think you can learn something from other people? That's an arrogant fucking content creator or even celebrity. If I don't see a celebrity following, over 1,200 people, it's a red flag to me. There's an arrogance there. Oh, I'm too good to follow. I'm so-and-so and I'm not going to follow, Joe Blow. Well, I'm following Joe Blow and Jane Blow. I'm following people that have completely point of views, living lifestyles that are incredibly amazing. I'm following people who are rescuers of animals. I'm following people who are connecting people to save animals. I'm following people who talk about holistic health, who talk about leave the country, leave there. I live in Portugal. I live in France. Let me tell you how I follow all kinds of people, including people with financial advice. And why? Because it enriches your mind. It enriches your perception of what is possible and what is out there in the world and how different people live their lives. I even follow a guy who documents Mongolians who actually travel all over their little land, as nomads on horseback, who have like these yurts, yurts. So, and who eat and how they have these dogs, that live in the snow and somehow survive. I don't know fucking how, but they do. Like, enrich your mind, but also be discerning. Be discerning. Don't like somebody who's showing dogs in shelters and there's no fucking way to find the dog. I'm telling you, there's a particular, I had to block her ass because I was going to I reported her and blocked her. And the reason I reported her was because she was asking for money, as I said, and at least 10 people were asking, tell us where the dog is, I'll go get him right now, or her, and would not respond. And this was video after video after video. Videos that had gone on for a year. But she was getting 100,000 likes. That's money ching in the bank. Especially if people watch, and people are more likely to watch a whole animal video than any other video out there. And that's a known fact. So she's probably getting the most because she's not advertising anything. Whereas the people who are doing this for free are advertising where to find the dog or cat. And guess what? Because they're advertising that, TikTok, I kid you not, will actually take it away from the creative incentive program. They'll actually remove it. They remove my videos all the time for the creative incentive program. I haven't made money off TikTok in fucking a year. Okay? If I make any money, it's from you buying a product that I'm promoting, and I actually love the product and I actually believe in the product. But how often do you see those videos? Not often at all. You know, I have to really, really, like the 369 project book I promoted. I probably made a total in one whole year, $28, just to be upfront. Okay. When I get likes on my lives, the reason why people make money is they tell you to tap the screen because that actually helps with their channel, this and that and the other. And I never do that. I never ask you to tap my fucking screen. I mean, if you do, I'm grateful. If you don't, I'm not going to ask you every fucking 5 minutes to tap the screen. Okay, our goal is to get to 5,000 likes. I don't do that. Okay? Because I'm here to have a conversation with you. And to me, that's distracting anyway. But ultimately, try to find out how you can help with any way, whether it's visiting the elderly in hospice care or nursing homes. Go to shelters if you want with dogs. Take them out for the day. Make sure to advertise the shit out of them. Also know the problem with it. There was a beautiful Great Pyrenees I was trying to get, actually, and she got adopted. And then she was returned and she was viral. She's a gorgeous dog. And she was returned because their dog didn't get along with her dog. And she was viral. She's a gorgeous dog. And she was returned because their dog didn't get along with her dog. And it's like, dude, there are people who literally have dogs living in separate parts of the house for their entire fucking incarnation. I kid you not. So it's like, if you're going to get a dog, don't get it because it's viral. Get the dog because you know that it's going to work out because your dog is dog friendly and so on. Or just the consequences are going to be, oh, it's going to take a while. It probably would take a while. My Great Pyrenees, it took a while for her to be safe around my cats, but now she's cool. And my cats can jump onto counters and she can't reach it. And she doesn't try to get at them, but she gets along, she gets along with my cats. And one of my cats, Senior, my black cat, Senior, when she's sleeping, will sneak up on her and then tag her with his paw and then run. It's like hide and seek. He's like naughty, but she doesn't try to get him, obviously. You have to be ready and willing to give the time. Sometimes it can be pretty horrible. And you've got to really find out from trainers. And there's training videos that I follow. There's this particular guy that really, it's kind of like me. He's very much like me, and his style is like a no bullshit attitude. You can look up Doberman Pinscher Bosco. Boscoe is what you would look on YouTube. And he's incredible. He knows his shit. Unlike the little sugar plum fairy trainers, he knows his shit, and his dogs actually train dogs. I kid you not. That's how they learn. So there's a lot going on in the dark world of dog shelter rescue and cat rescue. The fact that Chris was being harassed, Chris who died in the fire, he had 300 dogs, the fact that everyone's red flagging that, yeah, this is not normal what happened. Like, they need to be, the women that were harassing him need to be investigated. There are a lot of fucking crazy ass bitches out there that are my age and older that have nothing better to do than to harass people. They're Gen Xers and boomers, straight up. And a lot of them are on meds. I'm just going to be straight up pharma, and it's fucking changing their brain chemistry. They're acting kind of nonsensical. You could call them a Karen's on steroids, like insane, like off the fucking charts. Instead of working with someone who clearly was kicking it. I've never seen such an incredible cattery in my life, what he had set up. So he was pouring all his money, all his energies on these cats. And he was being harassed because of jealousy or whatever. I don't know. But it doesn't matter to me, because what really matters to me is that there's a lot of jealousy in our world. There's a lot more of it than you think. And jealousy, it's one thing to envy. Envy is different. I wish I had what you have, but I'm happy you have it. May this love attack me, right? That kind of comment you'll hear. But jealousy is when you try to figure out how to take it away from someone. Jealousy is how you're vengeful, you're corrupt, your mind is filled with vile snakes, that intertwining thoughts of toxicity against a person that has what you want. That's different. And we have a lot of that. And that is why when you are an empath, which you are, or else you wouldn't be spending time with me right now. I know it already. Believe me, you'd be scrolling. You've already been, you came here for a minute to see the dog and you left. If you're an empath as you are, you can't comprehend this. But it's one thing to not comprehend it and to deny its existence. And to deny this existence is to put your head in the sand. Why do you think I say when I sage, I attract only people of light? Only people of light come to me wherever I go. Abundance of love, health, and wealth follow me wherever I go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I do that because I want to attract only people of light. And you know, there are people who actually have said to me, I'm not comfortable saying that. I'm like, why? Why do you want assholes, clawing at you? Why? Why don't you want that? And they don't know. They feel like they're being judgmental. Do you see the mindset of people? They think that's a judgmental state. No, I will say I deserve only people of the highest, frequency. Because I don't want to be bothered, because the work I do, I want good people that surround me as my allies, my friends, and my clients. Yes, my clients. I had someone calling me a couple days ago, and they lied. They said, oh, we're in the neighborhood. We wanted a reading. How in the hell are you in the neighborhood? There's no address that says where I am on my website. What neighborhood? And the attitude was wrong. And so I don't want to work with them. So I block them. I block people whose vibration I don't match with. And you might say, well, what? Well, maybe. No, not maybe. I get the hit out of nowhere that something tastes bitter in my mouth. I will not take a second bite to confirm that it's bitter in my mouth. The first taste is the last taste I take. If I'm wrong, once out of 10, I'm good. It's a good number. 9 out of 10 times, I can tell you from experience, I'm correct. So trust your downloads. Trust that hit that came out of nowhere, uninvited. You didn't ask to get, a diagnosis of a situation or a person, whatever. If it feels wrong, it is wrong. Do not gaslight yourself. This is one of the ways you can actually help with the 5D evolution of this planet, is that when more of us make that our new way of living our lives, by trusting that first hit, that first download, we actually end up creating the domino effect of the 100 monkey theory, where we normalize this kind of way. I don't care if it's the sound of someone's voice, something they dropped in a sentence that you were like, ooh, I don't know. You don't need, it's almost like how women get in elevators. When there's a man in the elevator and there's only one man, and you already feel, and your whole concern is, oh, how can I make him feel better so he doesn't feel like I'm paranoid? Be fucking paranoid. Don't go in the elevator. I've had men say, oh, you can, no, that's fine. I'll take the next one. Oh, no, it's okay. Oh, you think have a good day. Thank you. Yes, I'm rude. I'm very rude without being rude, refusing to get on the elevator, refuse. So in other words, there's so many things involved in righting the wrongs of the insanity of this world that we have been asked to normalize, which includes how we butcher animals. which includes how, I walk through, and this is not to shame you, my friends, because I tell my clients, if you're going to eat meat, here's how I want you to do it, right? But when I walk through the supermarket in the meat section, I'm fucking hit by how insane and normalized that is. Do you know that eating, how do I put this? I can't even say it in this fucking live. But there are certain things that are legal that you need to find out. Things that have been rumored in McDonald's burgers and rumored in other things that are legal. It's perfectly legal. You know that, right? I hope you know that. Nothing is to tell us that what's there in those nicely packaged things, produce. So the way we eat and the way we change the way we eat is actually part of the ascension symptoms, where suddenly what you thought, you could eat a steak with a big potato and broccoli and you were good to go. Now your stomach just fucking rebels because the body has to follow that. Somatically, the body is being upgraded, right, to new levels. And it can't sustain this because, by the way, meat will stay in your intestines for months, sometimes years. I know this for a fact because I've been having colonics since I was 14, and every colonic expert that I work with would say that some of the meat would stay in the colon tract and it would come out like pieces of tire. That's how black and old and hard it was. Okay, so there's a lot of things involved with raising your frequency. But I am certainly, like, there's a woman called Barbara Crow. I am saying her name because she's come up in if you're doing Gaia on Open Minds with Regina Meredith, you'll see Barbara Crow talking about how the Pleiades jump up and down. The Pleiades jump up and down at the idea of eating cow, meat, right? And I'm like, no, I've been a Pleiadian. We definitely don't eat meat. As a matter of fact, in other realms, they don't eat meat. In other planets, they don't eat meat at all. At all. It's all plant vegetation. And for any asshole that comes to me and says, carrots cry when they're being eaten. Yeah, a carrot is a carrot. An animal that looks back at you with soulful eyes and tears rimming their eyelids. Yeah, I don't think so. Okay? I'm not playing that. Well, trees feel things. Yeah, they do. That's right, they do. That's right. But there's nothing like the cry of a cat or dog or pig or horse or what have you. So don't get hustled at all. And there are multiple aspects of our colon tract. Lions have a very short, from the time they eat to the time they shit, it's a very short fucking story. It goes right out. We have, what is it, over 30 feet, something like that? I don't even know, but it goes in. I mean, it's a process. Whereas if you have ever been a vegetarian, you'll see that you're moving in a more fluid way. And the stuff isn't going to sit on you. There's sit inside of you for months, making you sick. So there's a lot of aspects that I talked about today and that I wanted to share. Because in a way, when I talk to you, I feel like I'm talking to one of my best high priestess girlfriends. It's like, this is how we talk. These are the conversations that go into different realms. It's like, it's not a one theme story. It's multiple ways that one subject creates another subject to create another subject and so forth. And these are very fulfilling conversations. And if you're not having conversations with your girlfriends like that or guy friends, then I highly recommend that you find new friends. I'm not joking, because there's just so much you can talk about when it comes to life. One of my next lives that I want to do on YouTube, which I know I should do, it's going to be for 18 and over, is going to be about sexuality. It's going to be about what women do to constantly cater to a man's undirected, toxic desires that are part of the whirlwind of the 1%, using sexuality to hijack, kidnap the root chakra of your average masculine, a 3D masculine or 4D masculine. So I want to talk about that. And so I might advertise that on TikTok to let you know when. And I'm thinking maybe I'll do it on Sunday. And so let me know, right? Like hit me up on a DM. Let me know what would be a good time on a Sunday for us to actually get together on YouTube to talk about that, because that is going to be very important for your own ascension pathway. Why? Because sexuality either destroys or heals. Now, we have enough data to prove that. It's not even necessary for me to get into, but if you'd like me to talk about how and what I mean by that, if there's a naivete to you or a lack of understanding to how sexuality can literally destroy human beings or heal them, and you're not sure and you want me to start out with that, let me know. Okay. Let me see. Have I? Hey, we can talk about yeah. I'm going to invite you in real quick before we go. I'm inviting Andromeda, and let me see if I can invite. Oh my God, I'm so excited! So, so this is my buddy
Oh
Andromeda Flame. Please go ahead. Anything you want to talk about? Let's go. Anything.
my goodness. Oh, where do I start? Well, I mean, it's interesting what you said about the conversations, right? The enlightening, the healing conversations. For example, our conversations or our conversations with our beautiful sister Jennifer, um, that that meander and wander, and then isn't it interesting how these conversations always come back to a certain point, the beginning of the conversation? So we've sorted so much out. We've shared knowledge, we've shared experience, and we've enlightened each other. And that's what any relationship should be doing. Not just a friendship, but a relationship with your beloved,
Yeah.
where conversations, yeah, okay, you'll have day-to-day mundane conversations, but when the conversations touch your soul, that's a special bond,
Yeah.
and it strengthens the bond.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree. I think too many women are very shy. When I used to tell women, and I still do, read the Surrender Experiment, that is a primer for a 3D male, and they'll say, "Oh, I don't know when to do it. I don't know. I don't know what It's not convenient, or he's only texting me, it's like, no, you push that. You do not continue these ridiculous pedestrian, what I call pedestrian conversations on a fucking nothing. You say, "Hey, I'm reading this book. It's blowing my world. It's about a man who is controlling his monkey mind, and in that path, money chased him to the point he became a billionaire, and he never wanted the money. He never chased the money. He chased peace, and in finding peace, he collided with billions. And if you don't know how to pitch a book to your man, then you better learn how to pitch, because you're going to have to understand as a woman that your job is to educate your man. Very rarely is it the opposite. Does it happen? Yes. But for the most part, what I've found is that truth. So add anything or go on to another
well, no,
tangent.
it's interesting you said that, because it is our job to kind of to push that growth, right? That intellectual and spiritual growth. And I know with my twin and I, I talk to him about the books that I've read, and sometimes I'll read aloud to him, um, and he will challenge me, he will push me, he will make me look at things in a different way, and that's a dynamic which creates growth and curiosity, and then I'll think, oh yeah, I want to read more about that particular aspect. And then I read about that, and then I tell him, right? So it is it is our job to help to educate the masculines, not least because very often it's the feminine that's more awake, more attuned to what's going on, more intuitive. Not always, but on the whole. And also the 3D attacks on the masculines keep them in the 3D, whether it's through financial anxiety, status anxiety, all of these things. The absolute bullshit that you see on this app about what men should be. I saw somebody today saying, if a man has no money, it's okay for you to tell them to fuck off. And I
Yeah.
thought,
Yeah.
where's the room for connection?
None.
there? Where's the room for saying that our soul connection is so deep, so
Yeah.
powerful, so intense in the case of twins that our phone that our sorry, I just read Jennifer's Jennifer's comment said phone that our love will generate abundance and fortune and experiences and growth. Where's the room for that when we're judging people on the basis of mundane 3D, as you say, pedestrian? It's a great word because pedestrian is walking. We don't want to walk, we want to fly.
Exactly. 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 That's the whole point. And that's why people are very uncomfortable with using conversation. Like I had a reading, and we were in a reading, it was a session actually, it was about sexuality with a client. And as I was telling her something, I realized, for example, that she didn't know how to articulate these things because probably she had been trained from cradle not to be comfortable with her sense of sensuality, okay, or her comfort zone with sexuality and desires, as opposed to catering to someone's desires that are not yours. Like for example, I had a twin flame who was definitely monogamous, hardwired to that, and her twin was polyamorous, and that was he was not willing to go in her camp, and she was definitely not willing to go in his camp, and so that's a union that will never happen until he gets rid of. I mean, everything else was perfect; they got along great, the sex was great, all of it was great, but they could not get to that point. And she, she did not get him. She did not educate her twin into spirituality, into tantric sexuality, into the sacrosanct power of sexuality. As I was talking to this client about the big O, right, and what it does, and how it's almost like there are a lot of words I can't say on this fucking app, but suffice it to say that its power is the power of the Big Bang
Yes.
theory. And because of that, that it has been hijacked by the 1%. Don't think they don't think of this shit. They have think tanks on all kinds of crap, okay? And now it's undercover, okay? Whereas before, in the mid 90s, late 80s, early 90s, I used to know those by name. Like Idea Lab was a think tank in Pasadena, California. I have no idea where they are anymore. Supposedly defunct. I think they got absorbed in another situation, another government agency or whatever. I think they're still there, except we're not aware of it. So they know what they're doing, and they know the energy of manifestation, and they know, in fact, they know shit that will not come to become open to the public for another 20, 30 years. I mean, if you don't see patterns already from that truth, then I don't know what to say. But ultimately, we are being fucking played. And the difference between hundreds of years ago to today is that we have cameras, we have videos, we have proof, we have wonderful, brilliant minds writing about it anonymously, publicly. Some of them are being witch hunted for speaking the truth. Look at how we were treated when we were told to take the vac during COVID. Look at how we were treated for those of us who said no, those of us who realized that wearing a mask was actually counterproductive to fucking healing, because you need oxygen to heal. Oxygen is the biggest healer. So, I mean, I'm going all over the place, but from dogs to this, anyway.
I think the fundamental point is that sexuality, particularly female sexuality, it's very, very dangerous to the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are fully, when our chakras are aligned, okay, when we have healed the scars within our root chakra, because we all have them. Those of us who have had many incarnations on this planet and on others will have scars in our root chakra. We need to heal that. And when we've healed that and we have realized the creativity of our sexuality and the creativity within divine sexual union, that is dangerous. So they have to undermine it. And how do they undermine it? They undermine it by, hundreds of years of demonization of female sexuality, by calling the female O hysteria.
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You know, there were women locked up
Yeah.
in asylums for
Yeah.
having O's
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
because it was hysteria,
Yeah.
um, a lack of understanding of female anatomy, right?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
how to pleasure a woman.
Yeah.
You know, bro culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of that they have systematically undermined human sexuality, and it is the most powerful vehicle we have for manifestation. When
Absolutely.
you're in the when you're at the climax of an O, you are so close to source. Your vibration is so high in bliss and in gratitude.
Yeah.
It's one of the most powerful ways to manifest. And you do it not by watching strangers on a screen. Okay, we have to call it corn on this app, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not by watching corn, right? But you do it through visualization
Yeah.
and affirmations and expressing gratitude.
Yeah.
So at that point, I am so grateful. I am so grateful for this abundance. I am so grateful for the new earth. I
Yeah.
am so grateful that love is being spread through the collective.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a lot. So depending on what you're doing on Sunday, if you wanted to do a live with me on YouTube, because it has to be 18 or older, and then we can really talk. If not, I'm thinking Sunday would be a good day
Yeah.
to go on YouTube, and we can do, we can just try. And then Jennifer, if you want to join, if you can, on YouTube, they all have like these basic, I don't know, number requirements to go on live. Like I think with whatchamacallit, with TikTok, it's 1,000 followers to get on live is the problem. That's a problem because there are so many people who are not tooting their own horns, who are not content creators, who are absolutely brilliant, Jennifer being one of them, and yet, you know, because of their little number of fucking schemes. So
Yeah.
they're not, and you gotta be like, you gotta like toot your own horn basically at some point to get that kind of following. And this again is why some of the greatest teachers are not public. Just so you know, okay? Some of the greatest teachers don't even have a fucking Android phone of any kind. They don't have any of that, and you have to. It's word of mouth, and you have to find them and so forth. I have a shaman who I follow, who's my shaman actually. I follow her, and I don't publicize it for the reasons Andromeda. You know why?
Yeah.
I can't. It's just not. But but she's the real thing. She is the real thing, and she's a lovely soul. And the problem is the assholes that have a 500,000 viewers. People are saying that twin flames don't exist. With their cross-eyed selves. It's a
Yeah.
bullshit. But they're good at telling you which stocks to buy. I'm referring to someone specific. What stocks to buy? Well, stocks to buy isn't a twin flame journey. No one's out to make money on a twin flame journey. And if they are, they're not on the twin flame journey because that corruptness of avarice is not part of the journey. Trust me, it isn't. But they are going into realms that are scare tactics or kumbaya, toxic, what is it? Subjugation of self, subjugation of realizing that there's both good and evil going on, and we're trying to move all of that into a more balance. Like when you look at the Native Americans and the African tribes and the tribes in the jungles and the ancient Celts and Druids and so forth, of course there were fucking conflicts, but they weren't having wars for the most part. When you heard of Native American indigenous people, we call it, in America, there were certain tribes that were known to be soft people. The Hopi being one, Chickasaw being another, and then there were warriors in the other aspects of the indigenous. Just like in every place in the world, there's that balance, but it's not a balance that we need to continue to accept as the normal polarity of this planet. This is why the struggle is real. And a lot of spiritualists who are toxic or don't know shit are saying, oh, we need the yin and yang. No, that yin and yang is feminine and masculine. The magician and the high priestess. It is not a warrior. It is not a killer. It is not that. And it is not one who would want to do that. A true love warrior, shamanic warrior, is one who helps and leads and guides and protects, a true alpha. What did you want to say on that, or anything else that you thought of?
No, I was just remembering all the stuff about the spiritual war that's still going on. I think we've just become a bit more used to it, right?
Yeah.
Well, those of us who've been through it, okay?
Yeah.
That was not about picking up weapons or growing muscles in these bodies. It was about growing spiritual muscle, by understanding energy, and about understanding how our energy, particularly as a collective, and through understanding of egregore, can actually affect massive change. The idea that we have to buy into the concept of violence, which has been imposed upon humans for millennia, well, since the birth of humanity. And the idea that we have to buy into that and become that is part of how our consciousness has been co-opted.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And we need to be aware of that. And that's where many of you have to trust what you feel. But the problem with trusting what you feel is sometimes you think what you feel is a feeling, and it's really the monkey mind leading you by the nose. And so the separation, which Eckhart Tolle first, actually, in my opinion, humble opinion, wrote down in his book, The Power of Now, the me and the I, as he was in his bedroom, I think he was 29 years old, and looked at his bedroom and saw two things colliding, consciousness that was witnessing him and his own internal dialogue, aka the false ego. And so he coined the me and the I. And then after that was Michael Singer with his book, The Surrender Experiment, and him talking about the untethered soul, right? The book that he wrote during a pretty intense challenge of him facing 25 years in maximum prison for fraud, it's a long story, read the book. But the point is, this idea of finding discernment is a journey into itself. But part of that journey, which I believe Jennifer did a video on that, I believe, on self-love. Am I correct, Jennifer? On self-love. And why is self-love important? Well, because without self-love, you don't respect yourself. And if you don't respect yourself, you'll never respect your download. And you'll listen to mommy and daddy and Auntie Melba and your best friend all telling you you're fucking making this shit up, when you know in your heart you're not. But at some point all gets diluted, and then you stop even trusting anything that comes out of your heart. You don't even know what your heart sounds like to you. Did you want to, because I know you've done videos on self-love as well. So
yeah, I mean, it's really...
because I know you've done videos on self-love as well. So
yeah, I mean, it's really important to develop heart coherence. And you can only really, I'm going to harp on about the chakras, because you can only develop heart coherence when all of your chakras are spinning, when the energy is flowing correctly from root to crown, crown to root, and through the heart chakra. Check everything with your heart.
Yeah.
How does it feel? Listen to your body. How does your body react?
Yeah.
How does it feel? Listen to your body. How does your body react when you're in certain situations, in certain places, around certain people? And trust that. Because your body has wisdom. It's not all about your internal dialogue and your prefrontal cortex. Your body has wisdom. Your body feels energy.
Absolutely.
Hi, Ian.
And then Ian, always Ian. Okay, so the account that Jennifer has that I'd like all of you to follow if you can, and like repost, and is called The Luminous Heart, and it has yellow hearts, I believe, if I'm correct. So that would help her a lot. Not to mention her content is beautiful. Also, please follow Andromeda Flame, okay, right now, and you will be able to get amazing content And Sarah has spent a lot of time creating videos on each chakra, so you can actually deep dive into these chakras so that you get more in alignment with that. And Andromeda Flame and I do lives together. We do classes together, things of that nature. We did a class on sexuality, which you can still purchase if you want to, with all of the, and they're amazing. I'm going to say it. They're amazing classes. Why am I saying that? Well, because they are marrying both of our wisdoms and our experiences in the world of sexuality, and in what and how these chakras are either misaligned or aligned to your sexuality. And if you've had trauma, that sets up the stage of your life. It really does. And this is something that we don't talk about enough. I remember, and I talk about it here and there, about the seals, the 2,000 seals they found in the Harappan Valley, Hindus Valley. And they found 2,000 seals. And in those seals, I'm going to say it, hopefully I'll get away with it, is Harappan priests with full on, at their root chakra upstanding, if you know what I'm saying. And I remember thinking, what the fuck does that mean? Because they were in yoga position meditating, but their root chakra was full on, tall as a tree. How's that? Tall as the cedars and Besh Hadem. Anyway, and I thought, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? And one day it hit me, oh my fucking God. If you don't have your root chakra healed, none of the higher chakras that people have been concentrating on for thousands of years can maintain itself. You cannot build a house on sand. It will collapse. You need a solid foundation. And in our human experiences, the most important foundation for us to structure all of the upcoming chakras, heart, third eye, and so forth, it will collapse if the root chakra is fucked. So root chakra involves, go ahead, tell them what it involves.
Yeah, I mean, I was also going to say as we go along the ascension path, it's important to start working with the Earth Star chakra as well. So we've got chakras in the body, and we've got chakras outside the body, right? Because most of us is energetic body, not physical body. The physical body represents less than 1% of what we are.
Right.
The root chakra is essentially about the fundamentals of life: safety, security, somewhere to rest, something to eat. And the insecurities of our society, the what we call food insecurity, which is basically keeping people so poor and raising food prices so much that people cannot afford to feed themselves properly, or feed themselves with absolute crap.
Right.
Yeah. That feeds into the root chakra. If you want to feed your root chakra, get meditation, chanting, visualizing the root chakra spinning clockwise, becoming brighter, forgiving all of the trauma that is stored in your root chakra, excavating that, but also feeding it with things like root vegetables, right?
But also seasonal vegetables, which was very easy in Europe to experience, because in Europe, in the open markets, all they can sell is what's seasonal. So you're dealing with exactly. And I was going to say, there's a woman, and I'm not putting her down. Okay, there's no shade, but this is America, so we're going to talk about this for a minute, because what you're saying is massively important. She's talking to people about how to get a full meal at the 99-cent store. Okay, how to get she did a video that went viral on how to celebrate Thanksgiving with $20. So these kids had to eat two cans of turkey, right? Now one can would be enough for a person in a sandwich, but okay, and all the other shit that went with it. And though it made a lot of mothers who, this is what's breaking my heart. There were mothers thanking her because they were able to actually create a Thanksgiving on $20. But what we're not understanding, and we're all celebrating this shit, instead of going, wait, hang on, what the fuck's going on here? Like, this woman should have a turkey If that, you know what I mean? This woman should have real potatoes, not boxed mashed potatoes to add water in. This is World War II fucking food, my friends. This is rationing food. This is the kind of food you need which my grandmother had to put together for her family of 6 when there was a war. Let's put some context to this. Now, this is not to disrespect this woman. I love her content. I follow her actually, but it breaks my heart because we've normalized living in cars. We've normalized living in vans, living on the streets. We've normalized fucking going to 99-cent store and hooray, you've been able to make a meal based on crap food, all boxed or canned. There's no fresh vegetables. Because by the way, I've been to the 99-cent many, many times when I was broke, and most of the vegetable is rotten. It's inedible. Okay? So can you expound on that now with nutrition? Yeah, of course, some comments in this live. Yeah, fuck you too. Anyway, let's move on. Tell me what else is going on.
Yeah, I'll just approve that comment. Yeah, look, there is a conspiracy at foot here.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when people eat crap food? They get sick, right? They develop metabolic disorders. They don't nourish their bodies properly. Children don't grow properly. Children's brains don't grow properly, and if their brains don't grow properly, they're easier to control. Mm-hmm. And the health industrial complex, or the medical industrial complex in America, is a massive business. I mean, I live in a country where people don't have to pay for healthcare, okay? But in America, you do. And yet the diet in America is processed, highly processed, okay? Laden with unhealthy fats, sugar, high fructose corn syrup, etc., etc. Absolutely laden with that stuff. And it's storing up disease. It is destroying these beautiful vessels that we have been gifted to walk on this beautiful planet, a beautiful planet that is abundant with fresh food and fresh air.
Yeah. I mean,
and
plants. Look at normalize only having male trees. I didn't know this until, like, I noticed shit like that because in Europe, when I was a kid in Switzerland, France, I would climb wild pear trees, and me and some kids would just be eating pears, juice dripping down our chins on a tree, eating pears in the wild. So, but the fact that they purposely, you can thank the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, the Gettys, I guess, to only plant male trees that bear no fruit. In Paris, right now, you can go down the boulevard, in some of the boulevards, and they have chestnut trees. That means fruit, nuts, actually, in this case, nuts, coming off the trees. There are wild cherries in parks in Europe where you can actually walk through and pick. Does that make sense? So this is by design, my friends. This is not unconscious shit. It's by design. Any comments on that?
Yeah. What do we think happens to the root chakra when we're eating fake potatoes?
Yeah.
And we're not feeding it. We're not feeding anything. And it is absolutely by design, but the poverty is by design, and poverty is a violence.
Yes, it is.
It's an imposed violence because it takes away the fundamentals that make us safe. And that's what violence does. Violence makes us feel less safe. And it's interesting you were talking about trauma, because Jennifer and I had a wonderful conversation about trauma and what makes a trauma.
Yeah.
And you can be through some horrific things and not be traumatized by it. And yet others would be traumatized. And that's not saying that people who develop trauma as a result of events are in any way weak. But it very much depends on the environment in which these traumatic events are happening. And whether or not there is safety. There is still a sense of safety as all of this is happening.
Yeah.
And I'm an example of that. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I'm an example of that. I grew up in a war. But yet my home was safe.
Yeah.
And my parents made sure that I understood what was going on and how to keep myself safe. So rather than becoming traumatized by that, I developed an innate sense of what was just and what was unjust.
Mm.
So trauma is not a necessary consequence of traumatic events, but traumatic events which happen outside of a safe place, outside of an environment where you can explore your feelings about these events, where you can talk about them, where you can understand them. That is what creates trauma. And there are exceptions to that. Okay, there are definitely exceptions to that. And root chakra trauma, and that's how I'm going to refer to it. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but direct root chakra trauma is different, because that is a direct violation of the root chakra, and that shatters someone's sense of safety and sense of self.
Yeah, definitely. Jennifer says trauma happens when your autonomy is taken away.
Yeah,
So yeah, feeling of powerlessness.
yeah,
So nutrition. I'm actually going to do a video. I was talking to Jennifer today. I'm going to do a video of the local market that I sometimes I have to go to, and sometimes it's just for an avocado that's they're selling it for $3.99, which is insane. But and which I don't do, because at some point I'm like, fuck this, I'm not doing this. But sometimes I need to get something, right? Sometimes it's cat food, actually. But if you go down the aisles, when I first walked through that supermarket, that's fucking insane. It's insane. Every single thing in the freezer or shelves are things nutritionists around the world, but in particular America, say not to buy. Every single item. There's not one item that isn't unsafe for long-term consumption, right?
yeah,
Even short term in some people, even short term. Everything on their shelves has corn syrup. It's a guarantee. And I was shocked. The holistic market that was here, like, because Jennifer said, what about, isn't there a holistic market? Yeah, a health food store, right? They had one during COVID. And during COVID, it closed, but not that market. That market survived. So I'm actually going to actually go down the aisles. I'll never tell you where this is, and I'll never tell you the name of the market, but I will do a video, and I'm going to upload it to my channel, because I need you to see what I'm talking about. This is not okay. It's not okay at all. There's this idea that Whole Foods, and you might not know this, but it's a massive, it's owned by Jeff Bezos now, but that Whole Foods is expensive. When I tell you that you can get a can, any can of beans, or organic beans, any kind, any legumes, for $1.25, when right here in my neighborhood, to get a can of beans, it's not even organic, it's $2.99 a can, or $1.99 a can. So when people say, oh, it's so expensive to go to Whole Foods, not if you're smart, not if you know what the fuck you're doing, not if you have a list and you know that these, in that list, all the things are the cheapest at Whole Foods. It's not to promote Whole Foods, it's to say, there's certain things that are way cheaper. I mean, I try to get sauerkraut. It was like $8 for a 4-ounce bag, when I can go into Whole Foods and I can get a whole fucking jar for, and I mean almost a pound for $10. You understand the difference here, right? And so this is what's happening with food. And when your brain is fried, you need oils. You need different oils. Like one of the things I was doing a protocol with Baron when he was a baby was to make sure he had omega-3, 6, and 9 oil. It was it's by Flora. It's called Flora. They also do different. But anyway, and I would put him in his pancake syrup. Like a real maple syrup, not maple syrup mixed with sugars or real maple syrup, and he would get that on his waffles or pancakes. There are ways to give and to feed your child's brain, and you have to feed your child's brain. You're gonna make it. You need one of the things. He was a very picky eater, but I was trying to get him to get into avocados, and I couldn't but if you have a kid that you can get into avocados and this and that, do it, because it's important for you to feed your children the nutrients that they're not going to have normally. They just can't. You're going to have to add shit to their stuff, because the food here is grown on stripped soil. There is no good soil here at all. Do you know what I'm saying? So if you want to grow, say, tomatoes in your patio in a whiskey barrel or a terracotta pot or a hemp bag, do it, because now you have more control and you're teaching your kids that this is normal. That sometimes we have to. I know in Cuba, tell them about Cuba and how they grow their own foods. Am I correct? Did you see that in the terraces of Cuba, for example?
Yeah, and there's a lot of food produce in Cuba, and one of the most serious crimes in Cuba is killing a cow, and that's because in the schools in Cuba they give kids a liter of milk a day.
Wow.
Yeah,
It reminds me of Jack and the Beanstalk when he sells the cow. It makes no sense.
and no, absolutely, and they also have food rations. I don't know if it's changed recently, but they had food rations, and the food rations would be rice and beans, and some meat and vegetables and eggs.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that like that Whole Foods, and I'm not talking about Whole Foods the place, but Whole Foods as the thing, that Whole Foods have the reputation of being expensive. I mean, Tony, you know how I eat,
Yeah.
okay?
Very well.
Um, and I go to the local market every week. When I'm not working, but most weeks, and I will get seasonal vegetables that have been grown locally, potatoes that still have the mud on them, you
Yeah.
know, carrots that still have the tops on them,
Yeah.
celery that's loads of leaves,
Yeah.
and whatever I pick up, that's what I'll eat for the week, right? That and and pulses and all of that. And it's over here, that's a much cheaper way to eat.
Yeah.
It's time consuming, but it's a much cheaper way to eat.
Yeah.
Now, if you're taking away, I mean, they did. Do you remember Jamie Oliver did this brilliant series, right, where he was trying to change school meals and make them more healthy, and he was looking at what kids were eating in schools in France. And these kids were eating beautiful, red cabbage salads and fresh fish and all of this, and the kids in the UK were eating processed stuff. And he went into schools and tried to change
Yeah.
the attitude to children's nutrition. And he showed children animals and he showed them vegetables. And the number of children who could not identify, particularly vegetables, was shocking.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And they couldn't identify a potato or, let alone a beetroot or a butternut squash. They couldn't identify these vegetables. And that's because, their parents, and this is not to criticize their parents at all, because their parents are probably both working, if at all, because their parents are probably both working, if they are in a two-parent household, or, working several jobs, absolutely exhausted, right? Don't have the time, okay, exhausted, right? Don't have the time, okay, to really prepare whole, from scratch, healthy meals,
Yeah.
okay, let alone let their children get involved in the cooking process. And that's really important for kids to develop a love of food. I think is one of the love of food and love of reading. I think are the two essential loves, or love of learning, that children will take well into adulthood. And I grew up in a culture. I'm half Italian.
Mm.
Anybody who knows anything about Italians knows that Italians are absolutely obsessed with food. Okay, and we all got involved in cooking.
Yeah.
Equally, my twin gets his kids involved in cooking, and his kids will ask breakfast or they'll want a salad because they've learned about food, they've learned about nutrition. They know that this food makes them feel good. It makes them do better at school. It means that his son can play football for longer when he's eaten that kind of food.
Well, I mean, Jamie Oliver eradicated the bullshit toxic food in schools in England and got everyone at all schools now use organic produce for their lunch program. And he did that in the 90s, if I remember.
It was in the 90s, but do you also remember there were some people who were very offended by this?
Of course they are.
Like there were mothers turning up to the school gates with KFC because my children like this.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to say this because you're proving your segue to that, how mothers have resented it. I love that because it segues to the next point. Every parent is responsible. I'm sorry for the kid reading and for the kid knowing how to cook. It's your fuck. And I mean, you're saying kids don't know an eggplant from a potato. Let me say something. There are adults that don't know the difference.
Yeah.
I've had adults literally at the cashier saying, "What is this? An eggplant?" And the way I say, I'm sorry. I fucking what the fuck. And and they look at me like, well, I don't know. I never eat eggplant. Really? Did you eat eggplant parmesan? You know what I mean? Like the level of ignorance is, I'm sorry, it's laziness. Parents who have kids that don't read, it's your fucking fault as a parent. I'm sorry. Period. End of story. If I could make my son learn how to read, but then again, I read to him from the time he came out of my womb. Actually, before, well, laying on the bed with the books, I was holding the books above our heads so he could, and I was reading 15 board books a night. This went on for years until we graduate to picture books. Okay, 5 or 6 a night with some board books thrown into chapter books, Harry Potter. I'm sorry, if your kid can't read or spell their name by the time they're 5, if they don't know your phone number by the time they're 5, you're fucking up. Period. I'm not here to be politically correct. Fuck that. It's not going to help you. Your kid at 5 should know your phone number because it's dangerous for them not to. I remember my son was in the principal's office at the age of 6, and this 8-year-old, he was sick. The nurse said, "Do you know your mom's?" and did not know the number. That's actually dangerous for your kid not to know your phone number.
Yeah, I agree. It is dangerous, and that love of learning is such an important it's such an important thing. I mean, in my case, I had flashcards, right, in the cot.
Mm-hmm.
And I started reading by myself at 2 years old.
Yeah.
And it just went on, that love of reading.
Right.
And that was really from my mother, who was an English literature professor.
Right.
And when I went away to university, the first question was, "How are you?" The second question is, "What are you reading?" Always.
Yeah.
"What book are you reading? How do you enjoy it?" And then she'll talk about what she's reading. And, back to the point about injustice, one of the really sad things is that she now has advanced dementia. And one of the first things that went was her ability to read.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That
was the same with my twin.
Yeah. And isn't it?
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, right? It's heartbreaking for somebody who loved words, loved learning, loved reading.
Yeah.
To have that taken away from them.
Yeah. Well, that happened to my grandmother, who read her entire, and then she lost, her vision went because of age. And she started turning me on to some of the Audible books. She even sent me a book on a girl who was not raised, but protected by wolves during World War II in the mountains. So we were sharing books. It was very interesting. And, but she was doing only cassette tapes at this point, which created in me a love of, Audible books. So, but this love of reading that you're talking about, and this ability to feel the magic of opening all these worlds when you're a little child, these wonderful books that have such magic. Why is it that parents keep pushing back and making the teachers responsible for these kids not reading? I know that there are kids that are dysgraphic, and what is it? Dysgraphic means you can't write, and dyslexic, they can't read. Not really, right? I know that happens, but for the most part, that's not the norm. So now what's the excuse on kids being illiterate?
No, and also just, like a personal experience of dyslexia. My brother has dyslexia, and his his daughter was diagnosed with severe dyslexia when she was at school. He's an architect and she's a chemical engineer, right? There's no, with the correct help, and that's another issue, that's a societal issue, but with the correct help, dyslexia can be helped. Certainly in this country, dyslexic kids are given extra time during exams, during state exams,
Right.
to allow them that extra time to process.
Right.
But why are kids illiterate? I think, I don't have kids, and I don't feel that I'm in a position to necessarily criticize what other parents do, but I can criticize what society does. And society has venerated and promoted the wrong things. Society has promoted get rich quick. You don't need to do well in exams. You can be an influencer. You can be an OnlyFans person, right? You
Yeah.
can do all of this, and you don't have to have a love of reading, and you don't have to learn anything, and you can go through your life being ignorant, but you can go through your life being ignorant and rich. And that is considered more important in our societies than actually learning.
Yeah. No, it's right on. I feel Richard Branson is an example of a man who was um, dyslexic, but he was 17 when he first made his first million. So what I'm going to say is that the way people, like we're looking at Matthias de Stefano, who were the way people, like we're looking at Matthias de Stefano, who were, what would I call his parents? I would call them maybe agnostic. I don't know. What would I call? Anyway, they didn't believe that, they didn't know what to believe in, but they didn't have any set concepts of reality and so on, and which was good. So what I'll say to people is that at the very least, if you're going to promote get rich quick, do whatever the hell you want, it's you as a parent not being an asshole to your kid and competing with your kid, not wanting your kid to outdo you. It's you wanting your kid to thrive and actually outdo you in every aspect of their life. And I'm going to be honest, I see that a lot of parents compete with their kids, be it daughters or sons. I'm not, I mean that. And people are not being honest about this problem, this toxic problem of competing with your own kids. And not all of these parents are narcissistic. They just have a lot of mental problems and they've never dealt with it. And in the surface, you see a perfectly balanced parent that clearly isn't. Because if you don't want your kid to outdo you, then that reality won't happen. But I can say, like, for example, and I'm going to say that, then that reality won't happen. But I can say, like, for example, and I'm going to say that, and I'm not being defensive. I'm just trying to say there are different options. My father was born in the ghetto in 1923, and he had a eighth grade education saved by his teacher, but he was accused of the act and he was thrown out of school. So he wasn't able to go back to, but he was like Gemini, but the most brilliant man I've ever met in my life to this day, you know? And, but he was able to be very, very successful. I remember a woman who brought her son, who was like 21, who was dysgraphic and dyslexic. He couldn't read or write, but he loved fishing, loved to fish. And they lived, and this kid lived up in the Northwest. And she wanted him to get a culinary because he's really good at cooking, but he could not take the culinary. Wanted him to get a culinary because he's really good at cooking, but he could not take the culinary program that we had because he would not have been able to read or do the tests. And our program at the time was 45,000. I said, honestly, ma'am, and our program at the time was 45,000. I said, honestly, ma'am, if I were you, I'd get him a $45,000 fishing boat and let him start his own business as a fisherman, you know, like taking tourists on his boat, taking him out. He could catch the catches of the clients. He could cook in his galley for them. He could cook in his galley for them. That would make more sense. There's some people that can't do it for whatever reason. And by the way, on the side note, she was a master's in psychology and she couldn't help her own son. And that's not to shade on her or disrespect. There must have been something, right? But so really it doesn't come down to the parent at every move, no matter where we turn, it's the parent's fault. I'm just gonna, like, when I fucked up my son on certain things, it was my fault. Fuck. Why is it so hard for parents to say I fucked up? And let me repair that, whether it's reading, writing, self expression, gender, confident, self-love. What are your thoughts on that?
I think there's a collective responsibility, and yes, we don't live in communities that we used to, or that we should. Okay, where everybody is helping with raising the children, but I think this is a disease of society rather than a disease of individuals. And this this almost celebration of ignorance that we've come to in our societies. Yeah, parents do fuck up, right? There is no doubt that on occasions parents do fuck up, but sometimes you have a parent, and particularly as the generations progress, you have people who grew up with this kind of in this society where ignorance is venerated, where get rich quick is all, where what you look like is more important than anything else. And this generation is now having children
Yeah.
being raised with that infection of society.
I think a society becomes its collective consciousness. In other words, what you have in the White House, for example, is who you are as a people, as a collective people. That's not to say individual, but that. And the fear factor of making decisions, bold decisions, and demanding change. And I think that, listen, I know what you're saying, but I think I'm going to disagree with you with absolute respect, because I've talked to too many parents in. Now, I'm not saying that's not what's going on here, but I can say here in this country, the level of disconnect from their children. And you can say, yeah, you're working hard, this and that and the other. I get it. Yes, I get that too. But I feel as if in fact, I was telling this to Jennifer, the ones that have money, parents that have money, are so busy setting their kid up for ballet, for this, for that. So the 5 days a week, they're constantly, the minute they're out of school, they're doing an activity instead of just fucking, I don't know, what an idea. Us reading out loud to each other, us taking a walk, in other words, going to the museum on a regular, I'm talking about weekly basis, taking your kid to see art on a weekly basis. This is something we did with our son, weekly, 2 to 3 times a week sometimes, going to see art, going to connect with nature, going to watch a movie as a family, going to the beach, eating at a seafood restaurant right on the beach, and making that something that was a family thing. All of these things, people aren't doing that. So even the ones that have money end up being shocked when their kids don't even feel anything for them. There's no emotional dump. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, on that level, I completely agree with you. And I look at my sister, for example, right? My
yes,
sister, who's a lawyer, and her husband works as well. They've got two gorgeous kids.
yes,
I
yes,
mean,
yes.
absolutely gorgeous. And these kids do all the activities, right? So, ballet and Irish dancing and music and football and, and all of these things, and my little nephew's playing football and Gaelic football and playing the cello and playing the piano and doing Irish dancing. Okay. And then when it comes to the weekends, they go to the woods and do leaf rubbings, or they go to the museum, or they sit down and they watch a film together,
Yes.
and they read together. Um, there is, I mean, ultimately, time, that kind of time is free, and there is no real excuse for that.
Yes, I
But
agree.
I suppose I'm attempting to empathize with parents who have grown up without that kind of connection with their own parents.
Yeah.
They don't have the example of that. They don't have the example of really spending quality time, of appreciating nature, of appreciating words.
Mm-hmm.
That perhaps you and I did experience. We
Oh,
did experience that cultural education,
yeah.
as well as other forms of education.
Absolutely. Mama Yeti says the tablets, meaning iPads or whatever, are an issue too. I've seen kids that don't want to learn read as it isn't as stimulating, and even with reading programs the kid doesn't choose it and the parents let it go, and there you go, the parents let it go. I remember
Yes.
I had to play, sometimes I have play dates, meaning kids coming over to my house and we go and hike. I'm not joking. I have a quicksand story I can tell you one day that's really kind of harrowing, but I was taking care of someone's kid, so I had to survive the experience. Anyway, long story short, I remember a couple times my son saying, "Mom, I'm bored," and I'm like, "What am I, three-ring circus? Go play with rocks. Go play with sticks. Just take photos of the squirrels. All right, here, take my phone. Take photos of what you like." He'd be gardening with me. I remember just recently we were planting roses, and my mind went back to when we lived in this rented little cottage and how he was a little 10-month-old watching me plant roses, and how we'd gone full circle to here we were 25 years later. And it's like, it doesn't take, it takes, like you said with your sister, and the weekends is family time. One of the things we used to do, and I've had clients leave say, "Oh my God, I wish you'd been in my life when I was raising my kids." We would have Sunday dinner. What did that mean? It meant a white Irish linen tablecloth. I bought them used, pre-owned, and we would have a wonderful dinner. In those days, I was still eating meat, so we would have Cornish hens on a bed of carrots, potatoes, and mushrooms, and Herbe de Provence, and we would have a wonderful meal with a wonderful dessert, usually a tart. We would have Sunday dinners, and we would have, it was like Thanksgiving in your minds, but it wasn't. And this is where we could sit and talk. My mother would come out when it was warm, we'd go outside in the garden, and we had created this gravel thing. We were poor, and somehow we found a way to make our experiences rich.
Yeah.
And my mom would come outside, and we'd have the tablecloth and the gravel with the little fountain I bought and all of that, and it looked like we were in France for a minute. She loved that. We would have lunch outdoors. And so it's effort. It's looking at something and not saying, "Oh, I don't have the money." It's saying, "How do I make this happen for my family, for my memories?" My son still talks about those Sunday dinners, still to this day. So, and we've been so busy with the losses we've had, we haven't had time. But now we're going back into the old ways, Sunday dinners and this and that, because it's good for the soul. It connects you. You're having conversations. You're having a 2-3 hour meal. It's not quick shit that you're eating. Like shoving down food in your face. You're actually enjoying food and enjoying each other's company, which is a very Italian, a very French way of eating. This is common. This is still done with multi-generational families, in some cases still living together, right? And what did you want to say on that? I know you know that because you live that.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly how I live. The idea of breaking bread together, is and you talk around the dinner table about books and politics and all of this was normalized, and yet it's become normalized not to do that.
It really is. I mean, that's why why do you think they invented TV dinners in front of the TV? What kind of country would actually spout family values and then create that kind of distraction? That's
Yeah.
not family values. Do you think? I mean, you don't think my grandmother had a TV set? Of course she did. But when we had lunch, dinner, whatever, there's no TV going on. It's a really crazy fucking habit. After dinner, you turn on the TV, not during dinner. What the fuck are we doing here? And so it's these, and it's interesting because the old countries, the ancient countries, they still understand the value of bonding. They know how to bond with their fucking kids. The grandparents bond with their kids who have children, and everyone's bonded in some way. I remember I have fond memories of playing board games with my grandmother, hiking with my grandmother and my mother and my little brother, hiking in the Swiss Alps, having teas in Paris, the 4 o'clock tea with the dessert trays. It's not even an effort. It's just enjoying and savoring each other's companies. Why else are we in each other's lives if not to savor the moments we have together? And I don't think people get it. You know, I
No.
think they, and I think what's happened with the MTV society that's turned into the less than 60-second society of doom scrolling, which I'm guilty of. Don't get me wrong. I'm not fucking preaching, from a place of, power on that level. But what I'll say is that at least fucking be aware of it and put yourself on a timeline if you can. Um, I think I'm starting to realize that insomnia is based on the doom scrolling that we do. Doom scrolling is a word I approve of. Bed rotting is not. Sometimes staying in bed and just actually trying to, listen to a book or listen to high frequency music on apps. Now, I'm going to really promote some apps here. One of the apps I want to promote is Moongate. I'm not getting a dime. They don't even know I'm saying this, but it's called Moongate. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm realizing in YouTube we can't trust the frequency we're getting at all because of what we know about, say, examples that you'll see in the movie that Andromeda Flame turned me onto called Men Who Stare at Goats. So after that, I'm like looking at YouTube frequency music with a side eye now, more than ever with the 440 being using guided meditation. And so there are things that you can do to to kind of recalibrate your nervous system, right? And to realize that some of these distractions that move us away from having a hammock in our garden and just spending, I don't know, what an idea, 2 hours. Yeah, maybe you'll even nap, exciting. And things of that nature that is going to soothe your soul. And if you don't have a garden, in your terrace. If you don't have a terrace, in your living room. There's something about the swaying movement of a hammock that's incredibly beneficial to the nervous system. I'm sorry, I went off in a real tangent that I
No, and I'm just sitting with my nervous system calming device called Smudge, who's sitting. You know, cats are incredibly soothing.
very. Um, Alyssa says, as someone who grew up in a money equal love family dynamic, I actually appreciate quality time so much. Yeah, you went against your experience, which again, Alyssa shows an incredible ability to go against what you were raised in, because you could have replicated how you were raised, right? You could have actually just continued that bullshit, and you did the 180. You went opposite direction. So I love that. No phones at the dinner table. Exactly. Exactly. No phones at a dinner table at all. I'm with you. And I think one of the reasons why this is a truth and a problem is people have been trained. Again, it's not to put down America. We have a lot of growing up to do. But in America, restaurants have to train, because I used to be a hostess, so I know this shit in a very famous restaurant in San Francisco. And the tables have to be turned minimum 45 minutes. I mean, maximum. Meaning 45 minutes, if you're not fucking out, we have a problem, Houston. And in France, for example, I think in Italy too, you can sit there for 2 hours. I remember one day we were in a restaurant in Paris on the East Saint Louis, and we had lunch, and lunch turned into dinner. I'm not fucking kidding you. We sat the whole fucking day, and there was no problems. No problems. So I think that also trains people to think that a meal should be at most 45 minutes. And that includes Thanksgiving dinner. Like in 45 minutes, we're out, we're up, we're going to watch the football game or whatever, instead of savoring the meal, savoring the courses, savoring each other's company. Yeah, it's like we're being like brainwashed to fast food our own fucking table at dinner or lunch. It's insane. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, in London it's 2 hours as well.
Okay.
It's like standard 2 hours for a meal.
Yeah.
Because it's a social thing. It's not about shoveling food into your face. It's about sitting there savoring the food, enjoying the company, enjoying the ambiance, um, enjoying yourself.
Right.
You know, as is being out in nature,
Yeah.
right? Taking a few moments out in nature just to appreciate the air and the sound of the birds and the bees flying by.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Alyssa says everyone is in a rush in the USA. On to the next. Yeah, we're in a rush. I'm
But
amazed.
also, the USA is one of the most, if you look at actual productivity of a workforce, America does not score that highly
Yeah,
because everyone's burnt out.
yeah, but they are more likely to work 12 to 14. See, that's the irony of what you're saying, and that's
Exactly. Yeah.
it's colliding with the numbers of, and I know this for a fact, having been in corporate America, is that the average work hours is 12 hours. For many people, that's a reality. Many people do OT from retail to corporate America, 12 hours to 14. Why? Because they bring work from home 6 days a week, sometimes seven. I know people who work 7 days a week.
And that's not sustainable.
Of course, well, you would think. Why do you think people are on so much pharma? It's to cut off their feelings.
Yeah.
That this is a dead end life. This is a dead end life. I'm fucking not getting anything. All I'm doing is working. I'm not happy. I'm not. So they cut off these feelings. These little doctors with their little happy pads, writing out fucking scripts to people to literally lobotomize their feelings, that there's an unfairness there, hence cutting off the heart coherence, cutting off your heart chakra from yourself, because to feel it, you're gonna fucking have a nervous breakdown, at which point you're either gonna wake up or you're gonna take the script, if you get what I'm saying.
I mean, we've got to normalize slowing down, and not seeing slowing down as doing less.
Right.
Slowing down could be, reading a book, taking time for yourself, meditating, and what you actually gain from that is huge knowledge that you can bring into your your social circle or your workplace. We have to normalize slowing down and allowing ourselves to slow down, allowing ourselves to rest, to restore ourselves, to nourish our minds, and really nourish our minds, because for most
Right.
of us, our work does not nourish our minds.
Well, I mean, no. Jennifer says, who's in Norway, that's illegal here. Maximum 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. If over, it's double bubble overtime pay. How is it for Europeans who are in 9 to 5 when life comes up, say a concern, a concert, or camping, and you want time off? They take the time off. In France, they have 9 weeks paid vacation, 9 weeks. You will never lose your job. And Family Leave Act type of situation would be paid by the state. Yeah, be afraid of socialized government. They're, oh, well, they're not doing well. They're doing better than us, because Americans are going to Europe going, holy fuck. I thought I was depressed, but it was America. It wasn't me. This is not to bash America. We are on the threshold of massive change that we have to really realize is scary, because we are at the birth canal now. But with that said, the concept of going to a concert, or mommy just had a heart attack and you need to bring her home for 4 weeks, your ass is going to get money, and you don't have to beg and plead and look over your shoulder that lose your job. That's not how it's played out in Europe. They are happier than we are, and we need to stop being arrogant and puff up our little chests and tell the world that we are no, we're not the greatest. No, there are countries that have a much higher quality. New Zealand's coming out also as another country that has a high quality of life. Here's the example with New Zealand. When COVID lockdown was happening, each citizen in New Zealand was getting $2,500 a month. A month. While the lockdown was happening. Do you understand? We got maybe 2 checks, maybe 3, stimulus a month while the lockdown was happening. Do you understand? We got maybe 2 checks, maybe 3 stimulus checks of $1,200. That was it. Why do you think we have so much homelessness? So we're not the greatest, but we could be. We have so much homelessness. So we're not the greatest, but we could be if we're not so arrogance and greatness. That's not a match. Okay. I don't know why we don't have any more common sense. But you got people who refuse to see things for what it is. And part of healing in a family dynamic, just on a microcosm, right? Your family, your father, your mother, your grandparents, and you sit one day and go, holy fucking therapy. You go, wow, my parents were toxic as fuck. Let me heal this, right? Okay, well, we're not doing it as Americans on a collective. We're not having that internal dialogue. Many of us are, don't get me wrong, but many more of us are not. But then again, in retrospect, those are the same people who would not look at the truth of their toxicity in their own family dynamics, right? We have a lot to go. We have a lot to do. Let me just say, a lot.
We have a lot to do, but I think the important thing for us to remember is that it's not impossible. It's not impossible to make the shift, and we do that energetically.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we manifest the new earth, and the more of us who do it, the more effective it's going to be. If we can create that egregore of love, of humanity, of compassion, of learning, of enlightenment, we can create that.
Let
Can you
me
imagine the effect?
Right. Let me read this because I want you to answer this. In Red Mama Yeti says, in the US, you have to ask for months ahead to get time off. She says, my mom worked in a hospital kitchen, folks, where, some of them have like McDonald's, anyway, was written up. I'm going to say it twice. Was written up for going home when her husband went into ER. Let me repeat that. My mom worked in a hospital kitchen and was written up for going home when her husband went to ER.
I
I don't know
mean,
what else to say.
no, I mean
I fucking,
that's just disgusting. I mean, I have to ask 3 months in advance for leave. Okay, insane hours. Okay, like 80, 90 hours a week. Okay, like 80, 90 hours a week. But that's very, very, very unusual here. Very unusual. But if you had an emergency, you had a family emergency, there'd be no questions asked. None at all. You just go. If you're sick, you don't have to worry that you're not going to be paid.
exactly.
Right? You get paid. If you need to be signed off on long-term sick leave, you get full pay for a certain length of time, and then you go on to statutory sick pay.
Mm-hmm.
If you're suspended from work for whatever reason, you're on full pay until that investigation is concluded.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
what this means is that while people are going through really difficult times, illness or illness of a loved one or something else, it means that they have that security. They don't have to worry. They don't have to worry that they're going to starve or that they're not going to be able to pay the electricity bill.
Right. And that's huge. I'm going to wrap it up. I wanted to thank you both because I need all of you, all three of us. A lot of you. We're going to leave because apparently we maintain maybe 7 people in the whole live, just so you know. And why am I saying this? Because it's important. It's not because what we're saying is not important. It's not even saying, and I'm going to be arrogant, confident, fuck arrogance, that what we're saying is not true. The reason why we maintain a small number constantly, no matter how important your lives are, is because people don't want to fucking hear the truth.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear the truth of what they live. They'd rather take their happy pills. And people who actually consciously want to live a rich life, that does not equate to a bank account. And when we talk about what's wrong with certain countries, we're saying it so that we can right the wrongs or fucking leave. It gives you the ability to say, I'm out. This is not right. There are people saying, I went to Mexico with my kids, African American women, white women, couples. Why is that important? Because there's no racial barrier to changing your environment. You have to ask yourself, is this what I want for my kids? Is this what I want for my life? Is this what I want for my grandkids if you're older? Is this what I want? And stop being afraid, boomers. If your kids come to you, your Gen Xers come to you and say, Mommy, I want to move to Mexico. I want to move. Just go with them. Combine your incomes and go. Start a new life. Get the fuck out of here. If you feel like this is not it, then it probably isn't. But it's interesting how if I was standing right here wearing a bra, trying to sell you a bra, right now I'd have 1,000 viewers.
Oh yeah.
That should tell you something right there. And so this is to embrace you who are listening to this right now, or who, all three of us, and or who will listen to this later on YouTube. I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed. Eckhart Tolle said he used to sit in front of two people sometimes and talk, and sometimes no one, and he would still talk. So I don't give a fuck, anymore.
No.
All right, cool. So I love you all. Thank you for being here. And I will upload this on YouTube. If you decide to listen to, please leave comments. Help the algorithm. I did a very important one on the sacred masculine or divine masculine and third party energies. And it's not getting the traction it needs, and it needs the traction. This also, if you could share it with people you love and know on your Facebook. I'm going to be shameless now. I'm just going to ask, help me promote this channel, because we bring in guests of the divine masculines. We bring in guests of different people. I might actually switch off in a few minutes, or Saturday we might actually do a live with. We might end up doing two lives. One with Feeling Tarot and Mark of the with what is it, Water Bear Medicine, and I need to do that and go on to make sure that we continue. But you helping me promote this channel helps me with. I'm not making any money. Andromeda Flame is not making money at all. Trust me. But help us spread the word, because we really need to push this magical marble called Planet Earth Pachamama into 5D. And 5D means these conversations being heard, discussed amongst people who will never meet us. We're not here to be famous, clearly, or else, trust me, Andromeda Flame is a stunningly beautiful woman, as is Jennifer. And if they wanted to fucking go viral, low cut top, 100,000 followers in fucking probably a week. We're not doing it for fame. We're doing it to help the collective, because when I die, I want this planet to be much better than what I left it for my son and his children. I'm doing it for that. I'm doing it for the future of generations to come, possibly my own when I incarnate again, when the planet is in 5D. Possibly. But I definitely want to make sure that it's better for all these beautiful souls coming in. They deserve better than the fuckery that's been normalized in our multiple hundreds of years. Anyway, thank you, Andromeda, for being here. And see you. Come follow the whole live. It starts out with dogs, starts out with all kinds of, and we went into this. It's amazing. All right, much love. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.